Welcome back to the training sessions, guys. And most of you guys have done a good job in finishing the assignment, and it was really good. Now let's continue from where we stopped in last session. So in last session we discussed about for each loop container, and in particularly in this we discussed about one enumerator. Sorry, by mistake I dropped for loop container. Let me take it out and let me drag and drop for each loop container. This is what I'm interested in. So this is the for each loop container, and in last session we discussed about for each file enumerator, right? And we have seen how files can be moved from one folder to another folder using this for each loop. And in this session, let's discuss about the second one, item enumerator or ADO enumerator, or let's see a couple of items, and let's not concentrate on everything. And it's like if you know the concept of what this for each is meant for, then you can easily find out. I mean, it's not possible to cover everything, and also it's not possible to remember everything. If I explain everything now, it's not guaranteed that you will know or you will practice everything or not, right? So I'll cover 3 to 4 or 2 to 3, and you can practice the remaining stuff. Okay? Why? Because for everything there will be a lot of like this. Let's say you have 100 data flow 50 data flow transformations, and if you try all those 50 data flow transformations with the OLADB, ODBC, Excel, text file, and so on, different connection types, then it will be 50 into 5, 250 times. I need to, 250 transformations I need to explain 5 different times with different sources and destinations, which is of no use. If you know that you are getting data from OLADB, and if you know how to use these transformations, then that means if you know how to pull the data from Excel, then you can use the same transformations. In the same way, if you know what this for each loop enumerator or for each loop will do for file enumerator or item enumerator or ADO enumerator, then that means that you are good with the remaining stuff too, remaining enumerators that are available. Let's see for each ADO enumerator. Actually, this enumerator will loop through the tables in the variable. Okay, if you see here, you need to select a variable where you have the table. And what this guy will do is, this guy will loop through each and every record that is available in the table. So the table should be in the variable, right? Now, to get a table in a variable, what task I can use, or what task I have used in last session? I have used execute SQL task. This execute SQL task can be used to pull the data from a database. Let's see how to configure this. And as I told you, I'll spend a separate session on execute SQL task. So don't worry if you don't understand anything in this particular page. Okay. First, let me connect to OLADB. There will be a separate session on this, guys. Don't worry. And I'm connecting to a database, AdventureWorks, let's say. I'm giving localhost as the server name, AdventureWorks DW, and the connection is set. Now let me select the table. Select star from dim product. Okay, I'm getting the data from the table dim product, and the result set I'm setting it to full result set. That means more than one row. And if you are getting a table kind of thing, you will set this full result set. As I told you, and again I'm repeating, these complete properties will be covered again, mostly in tomorrow's session. So don't worry about it. And I'm getting all the result sets into a variable. So whenever you are getting a table or something, table kind of data or any data, even string or anything, you can put it into an object. Let me define a variable. I'm adding a new variable, and I'm taking the variable type as object. Okay, so object means it can hold table also. That is why I'm pushing it. I'm using object variable type. Now the name of the variable what I'm giving here is I'm pulling which table, in product, right? Product data. So I'll use product. Now the variable is created and it is assigned to the result set. The result set of this query will fetch a full table and the full table will be assigned to this product variable. See, I created variable here that is equal to creating a variable here. I've created there, that means it created a variable here. Don't worry about that, right? Thinking that I have created a variable there which is a new window or new wizard which you have not seen earlier. So either creating here or there, both are one and the same. And let's see. Let me disable it and let's see whether this works fine or not. That means whether the table will be pulled and added to the variable. If it goes green, then we are good. So it is green. That means the variable is getting value. The variable is getting the table information. Now let me enable this and let's see how to make use of the for each container to loop through the table that is available in the variable. Okay. First, what I have done, I've used the execute SQL task to pull the data from the database table and I pushed it into object data type variable. Now let me enable it. Before setting the properties, let me set the precedence constraint. And let me double click on this to set the properties. So for looping through the table tables that are available in a variable, you have to go for ADO enumerator. And if you select that, it will ask you to select what is the variable which is having the table. And here I have selected it and it says rows in the first table. If you are using different data sets, different data sources like ADO.NET, then you also will have these two options, which is of not high priority. Consider this rows in the first table. That means whatever the table that is available in the variable, it will take all the rows and it will loop through each and every row. Now the variable mapping. This is where I got question from Kalai in last session. What is that 0 and what is that 1 and so on, right? Let me see. This is 0 index. That means this is the variable it is taking and looping through. Sorry guys, one second. Sorry guys. This is the place where we will set the resultant value. You are looping through each and every record, right? You have one table in a variable and you are looping through each and every record now. Now you have to assign the result set to some variable. That is your intention and you are going to make use of this variable somewhere else. Let's see. I'm creating one more variable and I'm naming it as product name and I'm taking a string and the dummy value is test. This is what I have taken. And index is I set it to 0 or yeah, let me set it to 0. Now what's happening, what will happen here is it will get the data from the table, this particular task, and it will assign the table, it will load the table into the variable product. And this input will be taken by for each loop and it will loop through each and every record that is available in the table in product variable. And the output will be assigned to the string product name. So this is what I have configured till now. Okay guys, I'm repeating for those guys who don't understand the concepts. Okay, so this execute SQL task, what it will do is it will execute some SQL whatever you provide, some select statement or any statement. Okay, I've given some select statement and I'm asking to execute and retrieve the data, select star from team product table. And I'm also telling the server the result is full result set. That means it's a table. I'm going to return a table. You will have different options like you will get only single value or single row or no returning or XML will be the return statement. So you have different options here. I selected full result set. Why? Because this select statement will return me a table and I have to load the data, the table. Okay, I'm getting a table after executing this task. Where I'm going to load it? I'm going to load it into the object variable with the data type object. So tables can be loaded to the variable if and only if you define the data type as object for that. So I created a variable product, you can see here, right, with the data type object, and I have assigned the result name will be 0 always, and I have assigned user product variable. That means the result will be fetched from this by executing the query, and the value will be, or the table will be loaded into user product variable. Here I configured the tag, that means I will get a table into the variable called product. Now I'm gonna loop through the table that is available in the variable. So for that, the best enumerator is ADO enumerator. I selected a ADO enumerator, and the next task is in which variable I have that. I have it in product variable, so I selected it. And what option is rows in the first table, loop through all the rows that are available in the first table. So when it loops through each and every row, when every row loops, let's say first case it will be first row, next time second row, third row, fifth row, sixth row, the output, the values you can assign to some variable to use it somewhere else. So the object you cannot use directly, right? So you're looping through the table, and whenever you loop, you will be getting value into some variable here. Now I've defined one more variable called product name with a string data type, and I'm getting the value from the table row to this particular variable. I'll show you an example here better. Let's say this is my table, this is my select statement and table, okay, and this is for you in particularly color one, and you ask one question. I don't know whether you remember it or not. In last session you asked one question. So this is your table. The first task, whatever we have used, execute SQL task, okay, it will load this table into variable, right? It loaded into an object variable. This table is loaded into variable, and this for each loop container will go through each and every record. First record first time, second record second time, third record third time, and so on. Let me draw the table. This is the table that is available in the variable, and this is the table in the database. I used execute SQL task to pull the data from the database to variable here, that is product in our case. So now the for each enumerator, for each loop, what it will do is it will loop through each and every row that is available in the table. So first time first row will come, second time second row, third time third row, fourth time fourth row, fifth time fifth row. And this index, what it will do is, this index means 0. 0 means the first column value. 1 means second column. 2 means third column. 3 means fourth column. 4 means fifth column. So whenever it is looping through, it will get the first row first time. And I have given index 0. That means whatever the value it is here, this will be assigned to this variable. And second time, this will be assigned. Third time, this will be assigned. Fourth time, this will be assigned, and so on to this variable. If I set it as 1 instead of 0, first time I'll get this. Second time I'll get this. Third time I'll get this. If I set it as 2 instead of 0 and 1, instead of I set it as 2, then I won't get this data. I'll get only this information. First time this one, second time looping this one, third time looping. So that is the index part. So what I have done is I am looping through each and every record, and I am assigning first column value in this case. Okay, when I set it to 0, the index, that means I am getting the first column value into the variable user product. So this is what I have configured now. Now let me execute it. Let me see whether it loops through each and every for loop. It is throwing error. It is mostly because of the data type issue. Let's see what that error is. Output window. Error. Yeah, the type of the value being assigned to the product name differs. That means the first column that is available, I said, right, the index says first column, first one. What the index I have set? I have set to index 0. That means the first column. Second index means 1 means it will be second column. Let's see what is the first column that is coming when I write the select statement, select star from dim product table. Let's see that. Okay, if you see, I'm getting integer, but there it is string, so it is not correct format, right? So what is the best one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth column is having string data. So let me try giving sixth column here. And that means index as 6. If I execute it now it's looping through. That means whenever it loops, for every time it will get the new value. First time, the first product. Second time, the second product. Third time, the third product. To show you the same, let me do one thing. Let me add a script task in the loop container so that you will get clear picture. I will add a script task into this, and I will make use of the variable, whatever the value it is being assigned. Whenever it is looping through, I'm using this variable product, right? Product name, sorry. And I will show it in message box like I have done in last session. So here I'm writing a simple script like to show a message box dot windows dot forms dot message box dot show. What I'm gonna show here is the variable dts dot variables of, what is the variable name? User variable, and the name is product name, right? Dot value dot toString. So what I have written here is whatever the value that is being that will be assigned to this product name, just show it in a pop-up message. Pop-up message means a pop-up will open, right? So in that, show the name. That's the simple one I have written here. Now let me close this and let me add this. Let me click on OK and let me execute it. So it is coming blank. I think it is pointing to some wrong column. Let's see what column number I have given. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I have to give. Okay. I don't know what column number, what index I have given there. Let me see. 5 means product name. Sixth column is product name. I think I have given 6. Yeah, this is the mistake. So let me select 5 and click on execute. And now you can see the product names coming every time. First time it is adjustable base. And if you see here, the first one is adjustable base. Second time it is bearing ball. Third time BB ball bearing. Fourth time headset ball bearing. And so on. So it will loop through. It is looping through and it is getting values into different variables. Sorry, one variable. Whenever it is looping through, it is getting fresh variable. And what I'm doing using the script task is I'm just popping it up. I'm just showing, just to confirm whether I'm getting the correct value or not. The actual use of for each loop will not be like this. I mean, you are not gonna use that for each loop to show the pop-up. You will be writing so much of extra functionality inside it. Inside this for loop, you can write whatever the functionality you wish to. Like if you want to modify something using the value that is coming, you can modify it. Right? I'm just showing you an example. I'm explaining you the power of for each loop, what you can do with the help of for each loop. Now I'm taking the sixth column and I tried showing the sixth column. Let's see whether we have any other second column. If you see, this is a non-integer column, right? Or first one is an integer column, right? So let me define one more variable. I'll name it as prod key, and let me set it as integer. Here in the variable mappings, I'm adding that one to prod key. I'm giving 0. That means whatever the product key I'm getting, that will be assigned to the variable prod key. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna show the product key also in the pop-up, just to check, just to confirm whether it is coming perfectly or not. So I check this one, product key as well as product name, and now let me make use of these two variables in the output, in the pop-ups. So the same I'm copying. I think the name I have given is prod key, PRDKEY, this is correct. Build. Its build is successful. Now let me close it. And now whenever it loops through, it has to show two pop-ups for every loop. The first pop-up will show the name, the second pop-up will show the key. So one row, two column data, I'm getting into variables. If I have 10 columns and if I want all the columns data, I can get all the value, all the data into different variables. This is how you can make use of for loop to loop through a table and assign the values to a variable or to multiple variables. If you have 10 columns, what you are going to do is you're going to add n number of variables, whatever the variable, whatever the data you are getting. Let's say you are getting string, then define a string variable and assign the index. In the same way, define the integer variable. If the data you are getting is integer in a column, then assign the index. That's it. This is how you can loop through a table and get the values of different columns and make use of it in your workflow. Okay, now let's see how to loop through the variable. I think there is one enumerator called through variable. Let's see that. We have seen this file enumerator, ADO, and for each from variable enumerator. So this actually happens whenever you have something called an array into a variable. Array, you know, right? How many of you guys don't know what is array? Okay, generally you know variables, right? Let's say I've defined a variable called path, and I've defined it as string. So I can have any one string value here like this. Rupesh is a string. So whenever it is a string variable, I can hold one value. Okay, and if I have integer variable, let's say I defined a variable called integer with the name path1, I can hold any one value like 23 or 25 or something like that. And if I have an array defined, then I can have collection of values like Rupesh, Lokesh, Vinay. In the same way, I can either have integer, strings, or I can go for integers also, like 1, 24, 35, 46, and so on. So an array is nothing but collection of similar data type items. If you see, this is a string, the first one, and it can hold only one value, and the second one is integer and it can hold one value. Third one is array of string and it can hold multiple string values, right? Multiple string values, but it should be of same data, same type, like either strings or integers, something like that. And fourth one is array of integers. I can hold only integers. I can hold more than one integer. So that is array. Array is nothing but collection of items of same data type. Now let's see how to loop through the variable and make use of the same in my script task. So for this I'm going to disable this. You are clear about that, right? The first one. Now what I'm going to do here is to demonstrate this, I'm going to take script task. So in this script task, I'm going to make use of this product variable, which is of type object. Okay. Just like table, array also can be assigned to or can be loaded into object data type variables. That is why I'm taking product variable here. So now here if you see, read only variables is the first section and the second section is read write variables. I'm going to write back data to the variable. I'm going to write a new value to the variable. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this here. That means I will read it, I will use it in my script task, and also I will write new values to the script task. That's why I have selected read right variables. Okay, product is taken. Now let me edit the script. Here I have to write little bit of .NET code. You don't need to worry. What I will do, I'll explain. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna define some collection of define one array, and I'm gonna load that array into the variable that I have taken, that is product variable. First, system dot collections dot array list. I'll name it as ARR is equal to, this is .NET code here, don't worry, array list. I've defined, I defined an array. Now I'm adding values to that array. ARR.add, I'm adding, let's say Rupesh is the first value. And I'm adding Lokesh, Vinay, Vinky, Moksha. So if you see here, I've defined an array in .NET and I've added 4 or 5 values to the array. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna assign this array value to my variable. What is my variable? User product, which is defined as object data type. Dot value is equal to error. So that's it. The coding is done. So as part of this coding, what I have done is I have taken a variable array data type, and I've added 4 values, 5 values, and then I have added this array to my variable, which is of data type object. Now let me build it. It is successful. Let me close it. Okay. Now I'll get that array into the variable user product, and I'm giving precedence to the for each loop container. Here what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna loop it. I'm gonna loop it using for each variable enumerator. And what is the variable which is having that information? The variable is product. In this product I have that array information. Now what it will do is it will loop through each and every array item. I have added 5 items, right? And the output again, I have only one, either Rupesh, Lokesh, that is only one column, right? There is no 2 columns. It's just array can contain only one column here. And index will be, what will be the index? Let me delete this guy. I think I'm assigning it to product name, and index is 0. And you can see this is non-editable. Why? Because it is having only array. It is not a table. The variable is not having table, and now it is not editable. You can see I'm trying to click here and it is not editable. Now let me see. Let me remove the second one. I don't have product key here, right? Let me remove the product key and let me pop up the product name, and let's see whether it shows the proper value or not. Let me build it, and it's successful. Let me close it. Click on OK. Let me execute it now. So first the script task executed, and it has added an array. It created an array and added 5 items, and those items added to the variable called product, which is of type data type object. Now it started looping. The first item Rupesh, second item Lokesh, third item Vinay, fourth item Venki, fifth item Moksha, and that is the items that I have available in my array. So if you want to loop through the variable using for each container, that means for every item that is present in the array, it will loop through and it will assign the output to some variable which you can make use of. So this is how the for each loop enumerator works for variable option. So this is about different options in the enumerators, and there is one more option which we can, I'll explain you a little bit about the remaining enumerators, which we don't use frequently. Let's say item enumerator. Item enumerator is nothing but you have to define the items here. There is nothing called dynamically getting from a table or dynamically getting from an array or a variable or something like that, or a file system or a folder, nothing like that. You have to add it here. Add a column or add two columns, column of 0 string and column of 1 string, column of 1. You want to set it to integer, let you set. You are creating a table here and adding the values here. Rupesh, Babu, 25, 4. Lokesh, sorry, Moksha, baby, 420. And Diksha, 100. So you are defining the items here. You are defining a table and you are defining the items. Now what it will return when I loop through? What it will return? Will it return the first column or second column or third column? What values it will return? Let's try. I am looping through and it is giving Rupesh, Moksha and Diksha. This is the items I have given. Now let me go and edit the index. If you see the index, now you have option to edit. Why? Because you have more than one column. But last case, it was only the array. That's why array will have only one column data, one column data, right? So it was not, we were not able to edit it. Now let me set it to 1. So what it will return is baby, Babu, whatever I have given in the second column will be returned. So this is just a test how this enumerator works, or if you have some hard-coded values through which you want to loop through, then you can make use of this for each loop item enumerator. Now let's go for the next one. We have seen ADO schema row set enumerator is used to go through the schema of the database and get the data. I'll show you. I'm connecting to my AdventureWorks database. It works only for RDBMS databases. So let me connect to this. I'm connecting to AdventureWorks. Now, if you see here, oops, sorry. As I said, it works only for OLEDB connections. While giving the connection type, I have not selected OLEDB, I think. Let me select it. New. Here, if you see, it is .NET provider. Let me select OLEDB. This is OLEDB, right? SQL native client. This is OLEDB related. See, OLEDB is nothing but under OLEDB you have all this stuff. .NET providers for OLEDB. Can you see here? So it accepts only OLEDB stuff. So I have selected .NET provider for SQL Server SQL Server native client under OLEDB, and I'm providing the same credentials. And click on AdventureWorks and click on OK. Now you can see the schema, what you want to see. For example, if you want to see what are all the columns that are present in this database, or if you want to see what are all the indexes that are present in this database, foreign keys in this database, tables in this, let's go for tables. What are all the tables that are present? I want to see table catalog, table schema, table name, and table type. I'm getting 4 different columns, right? You can see whatever I want, I'm selecting here. So if I select 1, 2, 3, 4, that means 4 columns will be created. If I want to see the table name, what index I have to give now? What is the index number that I have to give? It will be 2, right? So this ADO.NET schema row set enumerator, what it will do is it will go through all the database and whatever you want, schema, the structure or the table names, all these things fall under schema of the database, right? So if whatever you want, you can get it. Now here I want to see the table name. So let me set it to 2 so that it will show table names in the pop-ups. Let's see. System all count. This is the first table name, second table name, and so on. Finally, you will get, these are all system tables. Let's see. There will be so many tables. You are getting all the table names. See, these kind of tasks, these kind of enumerators will be useful if you want to see how many tables are there, what is the table name, if there is any table name, if you want to do something, all those kind of, for all those requirements, you can use this enumerator. If you want to loop through all the primary keys or all the foreign keys or all the views that are present, so this is the one which you can make use of. So this is about ADO.NET Rosette. A very similar one you have, that is, this is for only OLEDB, right? If you go for SMO, SQL Management Objects, I think, SQL Server Management Objects, here you can go for the same connections and browse options. What it will do is, it will provide the database related stuff as well as the linked server, the jobs, the logins, all those stuff that are available in it. So this is the extra, all the SQL Server objects. Earlier case, it was only database schema. Now it is the complete SQL Server man. That means the complete server access. Whatever the objects that are available in the SQL Server, if you connect here, you can see you have these are all the jobs you have, and you will have somewhere here linked servers. So all these triggers, anyhow you will have the triggers. All these things can be looped through using this one. Let me select this database. I want to see what are all the views that are present in this particular one, and I want to see the names of the views. Now let me set it to 0. It's not it's only one option, that is why it is not accepting. So let me select product name and let me set it to 0. I am asking to provide only view name, that nothing else. So it will be uneditable. If I loop through it, it will go and it will search in that particular database and it will give all the view names that are available in the database, just like this. You can see all these are views. Generally people give view names with a starting view, starting character V or VW. So you can see all these are views that are present in the database AdventureWorks DW. So this is how you can make use of SMO or ADO.NET records to pull the either schema or the different objects that are available in the server that you are pointing to. Now the last one, there is one more I think in this one. Let's see what is that one. The next one is node list. This is one big headache one. The node list, what this is, this enumerator is used to loop through the different nodes that are available in the XML file. If you have an XML file, if you have data in an XML file, if you want to loop through that, then you can make use of this for each loop, for each node list enumerator. And nodes means these are XML nodes. XML will have different nodes, right? You know, Swati, XML, how you will write an XML file? Something like this. Employees. And you will have some names. And after that, you will close that employees. So these kind of XML files will be taken as input, and it will loop through and it will get the values as output into the variables. You just try it out. I don't have XML file with me right now, and you just try it out. It's an interesting one, and practice the remaining stuff also. If you don't understand, you can ask me tomorrow. I can show you. So this is about for each loop enumerator. Do you have any questions, guys? Very good. And now let me disable this. I'm done with this one. Even this one I don't want. Let's jump into the next container. What is the next container type? It is for loop container. For loop container is very basic model compared to for each loop. For each is very powerful. Sorry, again I pulled for each. I'm getting confused. Let me select for loop, and now this for loop is a basic one, as I said. Now here I have a variable, right? Product key, PRDKEY, which is of integer data type. This for loop, what it will do is it will loop through a finite number of times. If you give some value like loop through 100 times, loop through 20 times, loop through 30 times, and so on, it will do the same. Okay. For example, I have a variable. You need to initialize the variable. That is integer variable must and should. At the rate prod key is equal to 0. That means start from 0. And I'm saying at the rate prod key less than, let's say, 10,000. I'm incrementing it. Prod key is equal to prod key plus 1. So if you see these three, init expression, evaluation expression, and assign expression, and all the people who are familiar with the programming language may feel easy with this one, but for those guys who don't understand, who don't know programming languages, I'll give you a simple code here. Generally for loop will be like this: for int I is equal to 0, I less than or equal to 100, I plus plus. Do some code here and end it here. So what it will do is, first time it will take I is equal to 0. It will come in and it will do something. Go back and it will increment by 1. The third part you can see, increment expression. So it will become, I become 1. And it will check whether it is less than 100 or not. Yes, it is less than 100. So it will come here again inside and it will do whatever, do something. Some coding will be there here. And again it will go back. It will increment. It will be, I becomes 2. And it will come and check here. Is it less than or equal to 100? Yes, it is less than or equal to 100. So it will go in and it will do something. Again it will be back to check, to increment. I becomes 3. And again it will check, 3 less than or equal to 100. Yes, it is less than or equal to 100. So it will come in and it will loop. And it will continue till this value becomes false. So until this value becomes false, this will continue to go. So the looping part means it's a finite number. If you want to set some value like, okay, loop through 100 times, 200 times, or some 1000 number of times, and so on. So you can use this for loop condition. Here I am setting product key, set it to 0, and if it is, until it is less than 10,000, loop through it, and every time increment by 1. And inside this, in the stomach of this one, you can add any functionality. Let me execute it. You can see it is looping now. It is looping 10,000 times. It continues to loop 10,000 times, and once it is done, it will stop. So now it has looped 10,000 times. So this is how you can use for each loop. The difference between for loop, this is for loop. The difference between for loop and for each loop is, for each loop it will go through each and every item that is available in it. This for each loop, you are defining how many times it has to loop. You are defining like 5 times, 10 times, 15 times. Generally, if you want to loop through, let's say I'll write some functionality now. I will loop from 0 to 100, and whenever it is equal to, 1 to 12, 1 is equal to Jan, 2 is equal to Feb, and so on. For every month, all the 12 months you will loop, and you will have some functionality here inside it, right? And if you copy the same thing here, whatever it is there in the for each loop. So here what I am asking the server, I am asking this, the script task is to pop up the value that is available in product name. I have test here. I am not assigning anything. The default value is test. Now if I execute it, it will show 10,000 times. Test, 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 and so on. Why? Because it is looping. Every time whenever it loops, it will get the value, it will pop up, it will execute this functionality. If you want to execute any functionality for n number of times, you can use this for loop, or you can, it depends on the requirement. Sometimes the requirement demands you to use the for loop. So in that case, you can go for it. So why we will go for each loop is, you don't know how many rows you will be getting into a table. So you cannot use for loop, right, to loop through that many number of times. So for each means it will take each and every row or each and every item in the array or each and every value that is available. So it will loop through that many number of times and it will execute the functionality. It will assign the values to the variables and it will allow us to execute some functionality inside the loop. But this one, it is finite. We are defining it explicitly. How many times it has to loop, right? We know how many times it will be looped. But here it is the n number of times. It depends on the number of data you are getting it. I can't continue clicking on this OK. Why? Because it is for 10,000 times. It will take 1 hour for me. So let me stop it here and let me disable this guy immediately. So this is about two important loops, that is for loop, for each loop, and we also discussed about package container. And let's see the next one, the sequence container. The sequence container is like, it is most frequently used one, but of not great use. There is no separate functionality like for each loop here for this one. The sequence container is like a mini workflow, a mini package, a package inside a package. See, this is called workflow. First this has to be executed and then this has to be executed like that. So this, in this one you can have a different set of workflow again. Like, sorry guys, I'm copying this, I'm pasting it 4 times. Okay, and I'm dragging it one next to the other. And where is the fourth one? Oh, I copied only thrice. So this is 4 times. Now I have 4 items. Let me enable all the 4. Enable, and let me decrease the size. Let me select these 4 and move it to top, and let me decrease the size of it so that it will be easy to see. That's it. You can see the complete one in one page, right? I'm not selecting the right one. Okay. Now, what is the use of sequence container? Sequence container will have a shorter workflow, a subset of the workflow. A package acts as a workflow, right? And this one, this one will have a different one, a different workflow inside it. And if you ask me what is the use of it, there is no particular use of it except one stuff. I will explain you that. Now if I execute this, it will jump into the sequence container and it will go one by one. First one, second one, third one, fourth one. This is just like a package. Imagine the sequence container is pretty big one and will have all the items. It acts like a package. There is nothing special functionality here, right? But what is the advantage of going for sequence container? The first thing is, you can, if you want to disable more than 10 items which are continuously present, then you can make it as one sequence container and you can disable or enable, right? It's easy to disable or set the properties at one level, right? Instead of disabling 1, 2, 3 for all these items, you can disable as the whole. Second thing is, there will be common properties like zoom or something, auto collapse, group, and so on. If you see some common properties which are available for these 4 and this one, if you set it to sequence container, the same will be applied to all the 4 that are available inside it. That is one advantage of sequence container. And the third one is, if you want to define a variable for only 4 tasks, only these 4. Let's say you have one more task here. Okay, let me enable it, and it should flow like this. After that, it should come here. But your requirement says you have to define a variable for only 4 packages. Scope is 4 packages, 1, 2, 3, 4, only these 4. Then what you have to do? After clicking this, you have to create one variable. And after clicking this, you have to create the same variable. After clicking this, you have to create the same variable. So like this, you have to define it at 4 places, right? 4 times. Now, if you have a sequence container and if you add all those items into one, then if you define a variable at sequence container level, then this will be available for all the tasks that are present in the sequence container. Now, if you say, if I click on script, the test is available. Script 1, test is available. Script 2, test is available. Script 3, test is available. But when I click on script this one, outside one, the test is not available. So this is one advantage of going for sequence. And the next advantage is you can you have an option to disable and enable, right? That helps you in debugging the code. Debugging means if you have, let's say, 4 container of data like this. From here, let me go to this. From here, let me go to this. Okay. Like this, you have defined the containers. Okay. Now everything is enabled. Let's assume. Enable. If you have an issue, okay, and if you want to debug it, debugging means finding out the issue. If they reported that this is not working fine or this is not working fine or something like that. So that is when the testing team or users reported an issue, then it will be easy for you to debug. How if you ask me, I can disable, or if I say the issue, if they say the issue is in script task, or if they say the issue is in for loop container, then why I need to execute all the remaining stuff? So for remaining stuff, I can disable it simply, right? The debugging will be easy. You don't need to worry about the debugging. But if, I mean, it will be easy compared to having all the items enabled. If the, let's say, item issue is in this particular task, so I can disable all the stuff and I can execute it, so that I'll come to know whether it has any issue or not. If there is any issue, I'll fix it. Instead of executing all the items that are available in the control flow page, it's better to execute if you know where the issue is or in which task the issue is, or the task that is failed. Let's say this is failed. Then you can disable all the stuff, and it will be easy to disable and enable when you have items in containers. This is one advantage people say of sequence containers. And if you see the last type of container, that is task host container, there is nothing called specially task host container which is visible in the toolbox. If you see the toolbox, you don't find anything called task host container. Let me stop it, and you can see there is only for loop, for each loop, and sequence container. The task host container will come into picture whenever you drag any item. Any item, if you drag and drop into the control flow, it will take, or it will be part of, okay, it will be encapsulated with the task whatever you are dragging. So this task is not a separate one. This task is not just a task, it is a task with task host container. Even the same for this one, even the same for this one. For every task there will be task host container for which you will set the properties. Whatever the properties you are setting here, this falls to task host container properties. Okay, and the task host container is it's nothing called a visible one, nothing like a visible one like other sequence container or for loop containers, but it comes into picture whenever you drag any task from the toolbox items into the control flow pane. So this is about the 5 different containers that are available in SSIS. And in next session, we'll be discussing about more and more control flow tasks. Let's say, I mean, hopefully we'll be starting with the execute SQL task, and then script task, and we will be discussing about execute file system task, the one which we covered in last session for moving the files, and the data profiler task. And there are so many tasks. If you see here, there will be so many, and we have to cover at a rate of something around 10 per day going forward, right? So I suggest you guys to go through the video and practice it and try to get the good command, good grip on the concepts we covered in this session and the last session. And from next session, it will be on different control flow items. Thank you guys. Have a nice day. Bye bye.